What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today I'm doing something that I did pre-season that went down pretty well, so hopefully it will again. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Is rating random FPL drafts. So I put a tweet out on Twitter asking for people to send me their drafts, kind of their predicaments, what they were concerned about, how many chips they had left, and all this stuff. And I've picked 4 to go through today. Of course, I've handpicked because I've chosen different kind of strategies and different chips and stuff, because it'd be a bit boring if I just chose 4 with wildcards, free hit, bench boost, etc. all left. So I've picked 4, but I've also gone through 30 drafts as well to bring you some stats about who the kind of most owned players are and stuff like that. I had even more sent to me, but there was just too many to go through. So let's check it out. So I went through 30 of the drafts I was sent and looked at some of the most popular players, and I did the must own, or at least what I consider must own, my opinion, players for the double game week. And basically went through them to see how often they were picked in each of the teams I went through. So it is a small sample size of 30 teams. But my betting would be if I did another 30 teams to bring it up to 60, the percentages wouldn't change that much. So in the 30 I checked, Kevin De Bruyne was owned by 100% of teams. Not one person left him out, which is understandable. I said that on the video yesterday. His ownership's around 46, 47%. But realistically, in terms of live teams, active managers that are still playing, it will be much higher, much closer to 100%. It's literally 100%, at least for the sample that I checked. Next up, Sergio Aguero, 76%. I thought he might be a little bit higher. Obviously, not everybody is necessarily bench boosting, free hitting or whatever. Some people are setting up a team for the rest of the season. So there's that to take into account as well. But still very high, 76%. Both Grealish and Aubameyang on 90%. Obviously, Grealish offers you a great value. Aubameyang can be held later on. Pretty decent option for the double game week as well, of course. And then Sheffield United defenders. So I knew lots of people would have one, but at least 43% I've got 2, and another 43% I've got 3. So a total 86.86%, of every team that I checked had at least 2 Sheffield United defenders. Now, they've got really good value options. They've got really good fixtures as well. We know how good they've been this year. At that point, it's kind of even a little bit risky to go without them because so many people are going to have them. If they get 2 clean sheets and maybe even an attacking return here or there, depending on which one you go for, it could be an absolutely crazy kind of rank increase. But like I said, a very small sample size, I get that. But I'd say if you did kind of double or treble it, the percentage would be similar, maybe slightly lower. I don't expect De Bruyne to be 100% across every single manager's team. But the defenders is very interesting. 2 or more looks extremely popular. Let's get into the drafts that I decided to look at today. So these are all from Twitter. H5_Moose has just free hit and bench boost left. The other kind of comments I've put in the box are basically what they were sent to me. So that's the same for everybody. So is the team strong enough for game week 31 plus, or should they free hit? So I only got bench boost and free hit. Obviously, if you use unlimited transfers, you can set up for the bench boost. I'm wondering whether they should free hit as well. So first of all, Southampton players. Like I've got Danny Ings in my side. I think Norwich away is a pretty good fixture. Yes, they've gotten better defensively, Norwich that is, before the season ended. But is that going to continue? I'm not sure how much money I would put on that. So I think this week is fine. But after that, they've got Arsenal at home, Watford away, Man City at home, which is extremely tricky. They've got a 6-day break, a 3-day break, and then another 6-day break. So decent enough rest for the likes of Ings. But it's not even a guarantee that he starts all 4 of the first 4 games. And Stevens in defence is not that great either. Of course, you don't have to play him every single week. Probably got him in the team because it's Norwich. But they're the 2 players that would stand out. Like, if I look at the rest of the team, I think it's pretty decent. You got a Man United player in there, Martial. You still got the Liverpool players. Like, we can speculate all we want that when the title's wrapped up, they'll just stop playing or they'll start rotating. But we don't know that for sure. So at least having 2, maybe even 3 Liverpool players is not the worst thing in the world, considering they're the best team in the league. Obviously, you got Aubameyang, nice double game week option. Grealish too. I think if you, like I said it a million times now, if you're ever going to hold an Aston Villa player after the double game week, it's got to be him. And although I don't necessarily like Calvert-Lewin for this week, Everton have got pretty good fixtures. I think he's good value. Although we do have to look at how many injuries Everton have got. That could be a concern going forward. Will they be able to perform the same as they were before the season ended? Looking at the bench, I think that's a perfectly fine bench for going forward. Lascelles is good, Taylor's a good option, McCarthy's a good playing cheap keeper. Traore's a little bit of a concern about whether or not he starts or not. It's probably a little bit more money than I would like on the bench. So whether to free hit or bench boost, I think, personally, I don't feel like there's enough double game week players in this team. You've got De Bruyne, Aubameyang, Grealish, and Henderson in goal. That's it. So 4 double game week players, and potentially you've got a team that you wouldn't necessarily be completely happy with going forward. So Traore, Ings, Stevens as well. So for me, I think I would probably wildcard or use the unlimited transfers basically and bench boost this one. And use the free hit later on whenever you need to. Maybe if you want to, not go for the Liverpool versus Man City game in Game Week 32, or perhaps you want to save it to the end of the season. If values are concerned, like getting rid of Liverpool players and then getting them back, then maybe you could free hit this week instead. But I do think this team's going to need, or you're probably going to want to do a few transfers going forward. So I'd probably free hit it, not free hit it. I'd use the unlimited transfers, get like 7, 8, 9 double game week players that you're more willing to carry forward. Switch out those players you don't want from Game Week 31. Maybe add an extra Spurs player in, Man United player in, perhaps Jimenez, Jota, whoever it might be. But I think it's a good team. And I'm not really here to kind of criticise heavily and say people are doing it wrong. Obviously, I'm just giving my opinion on what I would do instead. But I would want a few more double game week players. There's a few single game week players that I'd want to shift, like I said, Traore and Stevens, for example. So that's enough for me to use the unlimited transfers, bench boost this week, and then just hold the free hit for whenever you might need it. So next up is Alex Waterbaby on Twitter. And this is a free hit team. So only free hit chip left, a bit like the situation that I'm in as well. And not really looking to kind of advice on the team to pick essentially, but are certain players too much of a risk, and are there safer single game week players that we could choose instead? So in this particular case, picked out Lacazette, Al Ghazi, and even Lundstram as well. So if you watched the video yesterday I did on must-own players, I did talk about Lundstram as being must-own. Now, it wasn't strictly Lundstram, it was more just one or two Sheffield United defenders, and I think the fixtures and the ownership I showed at the start of this video shows that is the case. I feel like at least two Sheffield United defenders are must-own. Now, if Lundstram's a risk, I think he is. I think I did have him on my avoid video. And I think if you look at the minutes pre-lockdown, he didn't have that many minutes and he wasn't starting games. So we're going to have to look to see if they play any more games behind closed doors before the season starts and see whether he keeps starting. But even if he does, it's still not an absolute guarantee he will start the season. You've got Sanderberg there who could play instead. Obviously, if he gets injured or something, then it's a little bit different. But he is a risk. The thing is, I'm going to keep saying this probably, the deadline, they are the first team that are playing. So the deadline, we potentially get some team news. And if Lundstram's starting, then I kind of like going for him, especially on a free hit. Because you might get 2 games out of him. If you just get 1 game plus a few minutes in the second, he can still get you an attacking return. And then you're not left with him potentially going forward as well. So he's not a huge risk necessarily, but I would like to get some more news about whether we should really have him in or not. If not, I think it's just an easy swap to Egan in this side, to be honest. The only other things I would say is, I think Lacazette, I just don't think you can say he's nailed on. Could he start one game and get minutes in the other? Yes, he probably could. Is that a good enough option for 9.4 million? Maybe not. Personally, I am coming around to having some more single game week players in there. So you could have Abraham up front, Rashford, Jimenez, someone like that. You could go 3-5-2, maybe get a Fernandes in there, Pulisic, Mount, whoever it might be. You could go 4-4-2, but I'm not sure we need to go that far, to be honest. I certainly won't be. So I don't particularly like Lacazette as an option. I don't really like Ozil or Pepe or anyone like that. They are kind of, what the hell, it's a double game week, you never know type players. But sometimes if you're not considering them for a single game week, that should kind of tell you something that maybe they're not the greatest option. For 9.4 million, I'm just not sure about Lacazette. Al Ghazi could be a good option. There's a really good article on Fantasy Football Scout about McGinn and Aston Villa players. And he actually comes out quite well on top. And I've seen a few Villa fans that think he might perform better behind closed doors without the crowd. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But he could be a decent option. The one thing here, really, and it's something I'm kind of learning with my own team, is getting Sterling in takes up a lot of money. So he could be the one that's downgrade to upgrade elsewhere. You could get someone in a little bit more expensive than Al Ghazi, for example. So Sterling down to Mahrez, maybe. Now, personally, if I knew Sterling and Mahrez were both going to start both games, I would go for Sterling. We know how explosive he's been. His stats have been pretty good, even though his FPL points haven't been this year. But Mahrez, when he's played this year, has been extremely good as well. Maybe not quite as explosive as Sterling on his day, but he has consistently ticked over, and his points per match are very, very good. So if we're looking at Sterling, and I am looking at Sterling, not knowing if he's going to play both games, but I can probably say the same about Mahrez as well. So if you did want to upgrade any players, maybe that's the move. Maybe Sterling down to a Mahrez, or even a Lacazette down to a Jimenez, or whoever it might be, or just put that money into midfield instead. So I'm not sure safety or safer is the word to go for, because if you think you're picking a double game week player that might play one, but then just get minutes in the second, and that's basically the same as a single game week who's just getting one game. But there are some quality single game week players with good fixtures as well. So Jimenez versus West Ham, Chelsea against Chelsea as well, sorry, against Villa, not West Ham. If you want to take a bit of a punt though, because obviously Pulisic and Abraham haven't necessarily, just before lockdown been performing that well, but they've got the fixtures to do it. Aston Villa always concede goals. So it's a good free hit team. I don't think it needs many changes. And if you want to take a few punts, if you've got 9 kind of safe players, safe double game week players, if you want to call them that, is there that much harm in going for 1 or 2 punts? Probably not. So Owen Wilson, 26 up next. And this is quite an interesting one because there's no wild card here. No wild card that Owen's got left. I'm assuming not free hit as well. I don't think that was mentioned in the Twitter message. And then they do have a bench boost though, which is quite interesting to have that, but no other chips. So that's in play. And I guess if you've only got that left, doing the unlimited transfers with no wild card absolutely makes sense. But you have to try and build that team for the rest of the season, or at least, for the next few game weeks to get through that as well, because we know what the fixtures are going to be. So straight away, you got 9 double game week players. So the 2 Sheffield United defenders, Egan and Lundstrom. I'm not going to go through Lundstrom again. Obviously, I've just talked about whether or not he is a good option. Leno in goal, plus the 2 Arsenal attackers. 2 Man City, De Bruyne and Aguero, which I think most people will have, like I said. And then Reina on the bench, because of a bench boost, he will play in the Aston Villa defence. So overall, it looks like a pretty solid team. And I think it is really difficult if you're using unlimited transfers to balance for the double and go forward as well. So you've got Mane in there, for example, which I think is a great option for Liverpool if you want to keep one of their boys. But obviously he does take up a big chunk of money, so it's harder to fit in everyone else. So you've got Aubameyang, Aguero, Mane and De Bruyne, which is probably hurting you elsewhere. And I've noticed there's no Trent Alexander-Arnold in here. And trust me, it's not fun watching Liverpool when you don't own Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not saying you have to go and buy him, of course, it's your team, you should do what you like. But he is one player that stands out as missing here. And the reason probably for that is because you've got those 4 big hitters and you're having to get Mane in a single game week when everyone else got double game weeks. The problem for me with this team going forward, and again, obviously, it's just my opinion, etc. You've pretty much, unless you're going to start playing 4-4-2, which I don't think you are with this team, because 2 Sheffield United defenders are not going to be wanting to be played most weeks after today. If Lundstrom's going to keep his place, then great, you can play him most weeks because of the attacking potential too. But ultimately, you're not going to want to play them. So you've really then got Seiss, Lascelles, Maguire. And then you've got to play one of Cantwell or Nketiah every single week. Now, if Nketiah keeps his place, he did play a good few minutes before lockdown, and that's fine, A really cheap Arsenal attacker could provide extremely good value. You can bench Cantwell, or vice versa. I'm just not sure right now I'd be expecting too many points from either of them, and you're going to have to play them every week. Not necessarily a problem, because you could get rid of Aguero, you could get rid of Aubameyang, whoever it might be in Game Week 31. I think one thing no one's really talking about, yes, if you've got a wildcard, you're in a great position. Chances are no one's team is going to be in such a bad position that a hit or 2 can't fix it. So if you go for the double game week and then have to take a hit or 2 to get rid of some of those players, it's not necessarily the end of the world. So we can make transfers after this, even without a wildcard. So maybe Aguero, you go for him for captain, which I really like, by the way. I'm really coming around to that, to captaining him. You captain him, but then maybe you don't want to hold him after that. So you get rid of him, you unlock some value, you go for a cheap striker. Maybe, I don't know, let's just say Jimenez, for example. So he's going to be like 3 or 4 million less. You can upgrade Cantwell to someone else, whoever that might be, and you can just bench Nketiah going forward. So that's another option, because obviously Fernandes is on your bench, but going forward from 31 onwards, he will keep playing. So I do like it. I think you've got the 2 Man United players in. The problem is, because you're trying to balance both, the bench boost is not quite as good. I mean, arguably, Fernandes is in the first team and Cantwell's on the bench, to be fair. And Maguire's on the bench too. So, yeah, it's a decent enough bench boost. I think with goalkeepers, the goalkeepers are a little bit of a problem, I think, because from 31 onwards, you probably get someone like Pope is probably better than Leno, but Leno is decent for the double game week. Reina's literally only in there for the bench boost and the double game week. Yeah, I just would not want to play a Aston Villa goalkeeper going forward. So overall, I quite like it. Personally, I would probably take, unless you got loads of money wrapped up in Mane, I'd think about maybe taking him out and just redistributing some of that cash to upgrade maybe Nketiah or Cantwell, whoever it might be, and then whoever you don't upgrade then becomes your bench fodder going forward. And if you want to get Mane back in Game Week 31, maybe you switch out Aguero to someone cheaper and then upgrade the midfielder, whoever it might be. So there's a little bit of working out here, but overall I think it's a good side, because it is hard to balance the double game week and going forward. I'm not sure about Reina. I know for the double game week, but him and Leno, I just think there's better goalkeeper options going forward from 31. But if you really want to go for the kind of 2 goalkeeper approach on bench boost with the money you've got, obviously I'm assuming there's nothing in the bank. That is probably the best way to go, to be honest. And then 4th team, Ben Bibby, someone with all chips apart from triple captain, which doesn't make a huge amount of difference. Although you could argue, in some cases, playing triple captain this week is a better idea. But there we go. This one in this case is wildcard, bench boost, and free hits. So we won't worry about the triple captain. And I'm going to assume this is a bench boost side. So straight away, I'm kind of drawn to the fact, the same as the kind of last team as well, you got Nketiah and Saka. Now, again, I don't know if Nketiah is going to keep playing. He may well do. Saka, though, is a little bit of a worry because he had been playing left-back, and Tierney and Kolasinac are both fit now. And Saka did a pretty good job, but I just don't buy the fact they've bought Tierney, just not going to play, and they're going to play Saka, who has played in midfield or is a midfielder. They're just going to play him left back instead. So he might play further up in the pitch. He might play an attacking midfield role, kind of left wing, whatever it might be. But I just think it's a risk having both those Arsenal players. I feel like they're in there for the sake of having double game week players, basically. Another thing here is you've got Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And again, I can't really sit here and say that they're bad single game week options, but they are hurting the kind of money that you spread around. So not having them, for example, you could have Aubameyang up front instead of Nketiah if you drop Salah. Yes, you might lose some money, and in that case, you really need to kind of look at how many players you're getting rid of under your unlimited transfers, and how many of them you're going to want back. So I don't know if I've explained this right in other videos, but when I talk about losing money, if you take, like, I don't know, let's say you've had Danny Ings since 6 million, he's gone up to 7 million, and you use your unlimited transfers to get rid of him, but you're not going to lose money there because you're not going to want him back on your wildcard in Game Week 31. A player like Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, you probably will. So that's worth considering, but I think that's hurting you a little bit in terms of the players you put in. Like Nketiah and Saka, for me, Arsenal have got a double game week. Who can I fit in with the money I've got left? That's a slight problem. Otherwise, there's not really too much to kind of critique here. You've got the 3 Sheffield United defenders. Again, if you could eke out some more money, I'd maybe go for Stevens over O'Connell or Egan. I actually quite like Egan, but over one of those 2, maybe Stevens instead. Lundstrom if we know he's going to start. I think in terms of single game weekers, Bolly and Jimenez are really good options. And Lascelles decent as well. I'm still kind of torn myself about... Lascelles is a good option going forward, but I'm going to assume this is unlimited transfers, bench boost, and then you're going to wildcard straight away. So in that case, I don't know if I would go Lascelles, like just for the double game week, would I just pay 0.1 million more and get Matt Target? I know I've said before I'm not a fan of the Villa defence, and I'm not. But for the sake of Lascelles getting a clean sheet against Sheffield United, and he doesn't really offer much more, not really bonus points or attacking returns or anything like that, would I just go for Matt Target instead? I probably would, as long as I didn't have to hold him long term, because I do not want to go anywhere near that Villa defence after a double game week. So I get the whole not every double game week player is better just because they got a double game week, and I think that fully applies to Matt Target. I'm just not sure if Lascelles is that much better of a single game week option. Otherwise, I really can't. I can't really say too much about this. I like Mahrez instead of Sterling for reasons I've mentioned already, just to get that value out of the side. But Nketiah and Saka are a problem for me. I wouldn't like to have both of them, especially on a bench boost, because if you think about who you're going to bench boost, it's basically Lascelles, Bolly, Saka and Nketiah. You could argue Nketiah over Jimenez and you're benching Jimenez, but if you're being realistic, I don't think Saka's that great an option on bench boost. So I personally would like to see, or I would like you, or you should, I should say, put together whatever you think your side in Game Week 31 will be on wildcard. And if you can afford to get rid of Salah this week, maybe do that and put that money elsewhere. But overall, it's a really strong side. There's not really too much to critique about. I think if I was bench boosting this, depending on obviously team value and stuff, it's close to where this would be, but I wouldn't want Nketiah and Saka. So that's it for this one. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below if there's any changes you would make to these teams, anything you disagree with what I've said as well. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like. Like I said, this kind of video went down well in pre-season, so it'd be interesting to see if people like it again. If you are new around here, make sure you subscribe. So this video is going out on Saturday. So this will be the kind of last kind of pre-season video, I guess. I'll do another stream on Sunday at 8 or 9 o'clock. I haven't fully decided, but I'll set it up in advance so you'll be able to see that. And then for a Monday, we get back to the kind of normal, regular in-season content. That's like so team selection, game week previews, and all that good stuff. So if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, give the video a like, leave me a comment below, and I'll catch you again soon. Good luck with all your planning.